Okay, so next up we want to do the next kind of part where we're going to set something up where we can shoot it and it gives us a score. Like the more we hit, the more points we get. So we'll learn a few techniques along the way. Now, what we need to do, well, what I'm going to do, my plan is to get these crates basically we've already got. So we've already got an asset. You can create a different one, a different asset if you want, to be used to shoot to get like a score for this task. But I'm going to use the crates because I've already got it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually delete that crate that I've got in my scene because it needs to be added in a different way. Now, essentially, if I go back here and go to my tower content, if you just drag content in like this, in the way that we have been doing, that's fine. This content will be on the map, but it won't have any interactive elements apart from maybe sort of physics. Um, by interactive elements, I mean like if we shoot it, we actually get points and stuff. The way in which you do that, it has to be created differently as what's called a blueprint. So that's why I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to go back to my main content folder to keep organized. And I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to call this one My Blueprints. So I know that these are ones that I've created. Double click that. So the first thing I need to do to create a new blueprint, so I'm creating something in my game that's going to have interactivity in it. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Blueprint class. And then here, there's lots of different blueprints you can choose from. We'll go through them all at some point, but right now, just focus on the first one, which is an actor. Essentially, it means it's something that's not actually going to be like a character or like set up as like an enemy with AI and stuff like that. So actor is what it's going to be. I'm going to call this, oops, rename, points crate. So I know that's the one that gets me points. Double click it and it opens in a separate window, which as you can see is like a separate window that it's opened. Yeah. Okay. And this is what my blueprint is at the moment. Um, it might all seem very intimidating at first, but just don't worry. We've got 3 tabs here. This construction script, don't worry about that at all. The event graph will be the code which will tell it what to do. Okay. And the viewport will be what it looks like. So I need to add in the actual box itself. So I'm going to go to add component and I'm going to add a static mesh. Okay, so that's added in there. You see static mesh. And then if you come over here to where it says static mesh, at the moment there isn't one. So if I click my drop down, you want to find your actual object that you want. So there it is, tower crate. There you go. So that's added that in. Remember it's a bit small, so I'm going to scale mine up like that. Okay, and you move around, by the way, in this viewport in the same way you do in the other ones in Unreal. Hold down the right mouse key and WASD. Notice I use the WER shortcuts a lot to move between move, scale, and rotate. I would get used to that. Okay, so I've got that in there. What I also need now is a collision box. So if I push add component and I just type in box, you'll have this box collision. So I'm adding that in as well. I need to reposition that. It needs to be bigger than the actual box itself. Oop, not that big though. That'll do. You can refine yours more so it's a bit closer to the edge, but make sure it's not inside the box because then your projectile will never actually hit the collision box itself. Okay, so that's going to be our collision detection, so to detect that it's been hit. And now I'm basically ready. I don't need to add anything else in terms of visual elements to my object. So I'm going to go to the event graph. Honestly, almost all the time you delete those ones that are there by default, so get rid of them. So now, blueprints, kind of a quick introduction, I guess. First thing we need is an event that's going to trigger something to happen. So if I right click here, I need the event to be a collision with this collision box. So what I need to do is select the collision box up there. Then when I right click, see I've got an event for the box there, an option for the event. So drop that down. I want it to be a collision. And I'm going to go with add on component hit. So when it is hit, it's going to trigger something to happen. Now we need to think, well, what do I want it to be hit by? I want it to be hit by the projectile. I don't want it to walk into the object and get the points. I need to actually shoot it. So I'm going to minimize this. If I go over to this first person blueprints here, we've got the blueprints that are set up by default, and we've got a blueprint here for the character and a blueprint for the projectile. You see that? So if I double click it, there's my little projectile there, which we can change. We'll look at that another time. But that's there, that exists. So what we need to do is drag out of there. So you just click and drag and then cast to, and that's called the first person projectile. There it is, first person projectile. Make sure you get the right one. Okay. Where it says object, I'm going to send that back to other actor. And what that will do is it will only be affected by a hit from the first person projectile. All right. Now I need it to give me a point. Okay, so a point is going to be like a value that's going to be stored. So it needs to be stored in something called a variable. Now I don't want to make the variable in the crate because the crate is eventually going to get destroyed, which will destroy that variable. So I'm going to minimize this. And remember, in first person BP blueprints, you have the character. Now, I go to viewport, my character, there he is, floating arms. This is where I'm going to make the variable because the character is always going to be in the game. So he's never going to be destroyed unless the game's over. So it makes sense to have my variable here for the score. So it's always consistent. It's always going to be there. Right, so where it says variable, click plus variable, call it score. Okay, and we'll go over this in more detail in other content, but where it says variable type, by default you've got Boolean, which is like your sort of yes or no, ones and zeros type variable. What we want is an integer that's going to give us a whole number without like any decimal points, like 1.3 point. That would be a float. We want integer. Okay. When you do all this editing, this kind of compile button will kind of process anything that you've changed. And if you get a green tick, it means you haven't got any errors and you're good. And you can see you can set the default value. For some reason, if you want to start at 10 points or something, you put 10 there. But that doesn't make sense. I'm going to start at 0 points and compile that. Close that down. And yeah, I'm just coming back into my crates. This guy again, into the event graph where I was before. So now what I need to do is actually cast again. So cast to this time the first person character. All right, because I need to access that variable that I've just made. Object this time is a get player character because it's the player character. All right, so we're getting somewhere. So it's linked in to just be affected by first person projectile, and now we've accessed the first person character. You guys can go away. So from here, this little blue one, I'm going to go set score, and then you'll see your variable pop up there. See that? All right, so we're going to set the score. If I can remember how to do this, then link that back to there. And the score is going to be, if you drag that out, type in integer, you will see integer plus integer. All right. If I'm going really fast, you have the luxury of pausing the video and sort of rewatching things. And I want to add 1 to whatever the current score might be. So I need to come back to here, and this time I'm going to go get score. All right, and I'm going to plug that in to there. Okay, so yeah, we've casted this. So it's only going to be affected by the projectile. We're accessing this score variable that we made, and it's going to set the score to +1 of whatever the current score is at any time. If you want to get like 10 points per hit, then put in 10 there, you know. I'm going to have 1 point per hit. All right, so that's all happened. And then once you've hit the box, after that, I just want it to be destroyed. So go destroy actor. All right, hit compile again. If you've got a nice green tick there, this all works basically. The code behind this was all fine. Hopefully that makes some sense of what's happening there. So that's all fine, that's done. But what you'll find, so if I go back to content and my blueprints, yeah, if I drag this in now, there's my crate with the collision box around it. If I go to play, what's going on there? Blueprints has unresolved errors, first person example map. Bear with me. Ignore that. Sorry, that won't happen to you. So I'm going to push play again. And I'm sorry if this is really loud. In preparation, this might be loud. Let's shoot this box, and there you go, it disappears. So that's great. I can shoot it and it disappears. And I have actually got that point, but I don't have any way of seeing that. Okay, I need something on my heads-up display on my screen to show me my points. So I'll tell you what, we'll do that in a separate video because this one's gone on for quite long. So set this up here. So make sure that when you come in to play your game, you've got your crate there in your scene, which is your blueprint crate, and you should shoot it, and it should just disappear. That should really show that you've set it up correctly so far. Okay, any issues, just go back over the video again slowly. Make sure you kind of get some, I'm not expecting you to be, you know, understand the full, everything that's happening in those blueprints straight away, but as long as you get the gist of what's happening there in this guy here, that's the main thing. Okay, when you're ready to move on, go to the next video.